Hi, we're here at EIAS and my name is Colin Campbell. I'm with Ecophon and I'm joined by Emma Greenland of Anderson Acoustics.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. Have you had a good time?
It's been a tremendous conference, it really has. The setting has been brilliant, the hotel. Having a spa, I think, is the best way to do networking, it would seem. So, met a lot of new people, even though I've been on the acoustic circuit for a long time, so it was great to meet new people.
Great.
Yeah, particularly people outside of acoustics too.
Yeah, so some new contacts and nice memories. And how about your presentation went down very well. It was a lot of interest in designing for acoustics for mainstream schools. And then, what is that difference? How do we become more inclusive for neurodivergent?
So it's the research I presented. There wasn't a lot of new research. From me, it was the result of a review, a bit of a quest for the evidence base, and looking at what the constraints are when we're trying to build inclusion into mainstream design. And for several years we were having this sort of circular debate within the acoustics industry and sort of lamenting why couldn't we adopt. There's an enhanced acoustic design standard for schools specifically designed for those with speech, hearing, communication needs. But it was difficult in practice to actually adopt that standard. Things like extra control of reverberation time, when we had all of these other design constraints we're currently dealing with, like thermally exposed concrete soffits, and just it needs a different type of approach to provision of absorption. Having light, airy, larger spaces, things like cross-vent means that you're dealing with larger spaces. And then just operationally, when you're in mainstream, you've got 30 children, and even in the quietest, best behaved room where the children are settled quiet listening to their teacher, they're still generating a significant amount of noise. So it becomes, there isn't the sort of value in designing down to those super low ambient noise levels too. So it was a case of, okay, what's happening in mainstream design? How can we integrate and get holistic about not just looking at acoustic design to shoulder the burden of the entire problem of listening well in mainstream, but what role does technology play, things like listening aids, things like classroom management, and how that all integrates. So we went back to the evidence base, and a lot of the researchers were in the room, so it was great to be able to hear from them, and I've had conversations and feedback from them too. Because the other thing is making sure we protect the teacher's voice as well. So we've got a bit of a compromise to not design down to reverberation time being too low. We've got to think of making sure we protect the teacher's voice in that sense.
Great. So, I just trying to think, is there any more evidence that's required, or is it, as has been to demonstrate that there should be higher demands for inclusion, or is it more that things need to flip around to the student and teacher perspective of what's required that would enable a better environment for everyone?
Yeah, I mean, one thing we wanted to do, a lot of acoustic design is based on the obvious need for people with hearing loss and significant hearing impairment, and there's loads of proven research on speech perception in that area, but of course there's plenty of other needs. So one thing we did do is look at the statistics from the school census in schools in England and Wales. It's published every year, looking at what the prevalence is, and of course actually sensory needs like hearing loss and even visual impairment, very, very small but important, but a smaller percentage of the class population, whereas things like speech, language and communication needs and ADHD, ASD, all very significant needs with really significant progress gaps. So it was about looking at disadvantage and how to quantify the disadvantage faced by those groups. And once you know about those people, how prevalent they are, yes, there will be a few people with those needs in average, speaking in terms of averages, in every single mainstream classroom. So we've got to get inclusion on that agenda in every mainstream classroom, and it's not okay to say pop those people in a room you know, down the corridor, because we have to integrate everybody, and that real inclusion is integrating everybody
from the moment they come in the building to leaving all spaces. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for speaking at the conference, taking the time out, speaking at the conference, sharing your knowledge and experiences, and you know, sharing a little bit more in depth.
You're very welcome. Thank you.